Hey everybody, I'm John.
And I'm Natalie, and we are American Tifosi. On this podcast, we talk about everything Formula One, drama off the track, drama on the track. We are talking about it here. So, Bahrain, let's talk about it.
Yeah, Bahrain was a great race, I thought. The qualification and practice was exciting. I know that we had talked about so many rookies during FP1, and it turns out that I did some deep dive, and I have a source named Martin Brundle that says that because practice one happens in the heat of the day, it doesn't give you a good indicator anyway.
Yeah,
So this is an easy time. Plus, it's so hot that the veteran drivers don't want to race it anyway.
sure.
So I
That
like
makes
that.
sense.
Um, but other than that, the practice kind of I thought was the three practice sessions were all kind of as predicted. You know, the McLarens were strong. Everyone was
Right.
strong. The rookies struggled. I do want to talk about qualifying. Qualifying was crazy.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
Q1, I was really I had in my notes that Doohan was awesome, and
Hmm.
and then the big kind of drama with Q1 was that Hulkenberg appeared to have kind of pipped Alex Albon at the very end to get 15th,
Right.
knocking Albon to 16th. And then we fast
Yeah.
forward all the way to Q3 and they
Yep.
delete Hulkenberg's time.
Yeah.
What is your reaction to that?
My reaction is that is crazy. Of course, Hulkenberg, he can't help if his time is deleted or not. But, well, first of all, he screwed over Albon. And this season, I've been a big fan of Williams. So that makes me upset. And just race control and the FIA in general are just, they're doing what they normally do. And, I don't think they're really running it right. So, yeah, I'm upset
Yeah,
about it. Of course, it completely messed up Albon's race. He could have, we don't know what he could have placed if that hadn't happened. So,
yeah, I agree with all that. I don't think that Hulkenberg screwed over Albon. I think the
right.
stewards screwed over
Yeah.
Albon. And then the other thing is, Esteban Ocon finished what he finished like sixth in the
Yes.
race, and he benefited from the
Yeah.
so because he should have been out in Q1
Hmm.
um, instead of Albon. So I mean, it was a benefit to Ocon, a screwing of Albon, but I don't know the right solution. I don't know how you fix that because what are they? Would you rather not hurt at all?
I mean, transparency is key, but I mean, yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
I think
I think I would rather not have heard. And like you said about Esteban, that I'm happy for him, but he shouldn't have gotten that. Um,
yeah.
I think he's a great driver. He's obviously experienced, but yeah, he shouldn't have benefited from it, and Albon shouldn't have been screwed over like that.
I agree. I mean, I think I loved Crofty. Usually announcers are very toe the line, don't want to say, and I loved like his immediate conversation or was F1 stewards, you must do better. Like the
Yeah.
and I loved how he called out race control and because really the answer is you have to do better. You have to make
Hmm.
that decision before, and I don't know if that means do a longer commercial break between Q1 and Q2 and then Q2 and Q3 so that the stewards can look over all those things. But 45 minutes later is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and
And
it,
F1 is the top of the sport. Like they should not be making mistakes like this at all.
agreed. Well, I will also say that I enjoyed. I mean, we come to expect that the McLaren's going to start both their cars in the top 10. I liked
Right.
the diversity of the starting grid with the after the penalties had solved because then you had the Mercedes penalty for
Hmm.
coming out too early after the yellow flag, so they all got a one spot. But I just like the diversity to see some new blood on the
Yeah,
starting grid, and I like
absolutely.
that. So, but if we move on to the race, what was kind of your lasting memory from the race?
I mean, the fact that Oscar was 15 seconds ahead by the end of the race, that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
he's in the McLaren, so of course he's going to be fast, but I mean, Lando was 16 seconds behind Oscar, so mean, that's what's going to stick with me. That was incredible.
Yeah, I'm hard to fight against that, but my lasting memory is actually going to be George Russell.
Okay.
Evidently, all the different car troubles he was having, he even had a couple podcasts ago, you made a joke about how Leclerc can be funny even when they're driving fast, and Russell was equally funny, saying, "Well, I don't care if all the buttons stop working, at least my steering wheel stays on." Because
Yeah.
and a note to Fernando Alonso, I like that. Um, yeah, the my other lasting memory is the safety car. Thank God for the safety car because
Mm,
there are a lot of people that kind of took notice that when the timing pull was working correctly, if you I don't have it in front of me, but there's screenshots on social media and stuff of that was like soft, hard, soft, soft, medium, hard, soft, medium, hard. So it just made for great racing.
yeah.
And so you know you can't legislate pit stops. They're already doing it with Monaco, and I don't know how I feel about that. But I do love that there was so much different strategy going on.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, because it made for great racing. I mean, granted, Oscar was basically wire to wire, except for the American Tifosi's greatest moment when Ferrari was 1-2 for a quick second, but we
Oh
knew
my
that was.
goodness. Yeah.
But I mean, Oscar was basically. But if you take that out, it was still a great race.
It was
Um,
incredible. The start was insane. There were so many
yeah,
close calls in this race.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I yeah, talking about strategy, I think it's time to introduce our new weekly segment of how did Ferrari f up their strategy this week. And I it turned out okay for them, but when they double pitted and I thought their strategy was brilliant. They started on mediums, which everyone else started on soft, and we didn't know how that was
Hmm.
going to work. So they lost a couple spots in the first stint, as they call it.
Yeah.
Um, but then they ran longer than everybody else, and it kept them out. That's
Hmm.
why they were out first and second. But then when they come into
Right.
pit, they came into pit and put mediums on, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that blows my mind is why do because you now have granted we got lucky with the safety car and that kind of helped them. That definitely helped
Hmm.
Lewis. But if there wasn't a safety car, you condemned Ferrari since they would have to run two different tire compounds. You condemned them to having to make a third pit stop.
Right.
And before the safety
Yeah.
car, there was only one other person on the grid that screwed themselves, and that was Kimi
Hmm.
Antonelli. And
Yeah.
look how that turned out for him. So I don't know.
Bad.
And then when they do come into pit with the safety car, they're going to run a different compound besides mediums. They make the asinine decision to run on hards when we had 18 other cars that had proven to us that hards weren't running well. George
Right.
Russell went all the way to the end on softs. At the very least, you could run soft and then pitted again, and then been like Kimmy and pitted four times. So I don't
Right.
know.
That's
I don't
just
know.
Ferrari though. I think Ferrari doesn't know what they're doing in the pit lane, I feel.
Yeah. Well, they
Speaking of
thankfully
pit
they
lane
pit
though,
quickly. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Max did terrible. Oh, not just Max, Red Bull in general.
Yeah.
I it made me a little happy to see, of course, but it was insane because we know that Red Bull is historically very quick in the pit lane, and this was
Yeah.
hard to watch and also enjoyable to see Red Bull struggling with the terrible pit stops this race.
Well, yeah, their little light system wasn't working.
Yeah.
The right front, I think it was for Max, that wasn't working. So I had in my notes that I was like, Max is so good. I'd like to see some of this misfortune spread out through all the races rather than to hit him all at once. Because although, he had four kind of
Yeah.
instances of misfortune. His brakes were crappy. He had a slow pit and then he had another slow pit and he still finished what,
Mhm.
sixth? So or fifth.
Yeah.
Fifth because he got Gasly at the end, right? Yeah, or sixth.
I think
Sixth.
he got six, yeah.
Yeah. Another lasting memory I have is well, I don't know if it's lasting memory, but I was really really happy to see Haas get double points um,
Oh,
on the F1 um, live YouTube post race. So not the
mm,
television channel, but on F1's
okay.
YouTube channel, they have a post race, and they had some audio from Oliver Berman, and it was awesome because his dad came on
Oh, yes, I
somebody's
saw
headset and
that.
was like, "Hey, grats Ollie of P10," and from a guy that started P20 in a midfield car to come all the way up to P10
Right.
was pretty
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. His brother also, I think his dad and his brother. Yeah, that was really incredible performance by Ollie. Maybe he should get driver of the day. We can
yeah,
get more into that later, but
yeah. I
he can
agree.
be in the running for that. I think that's impressive.
And then the other thing was Hulkenberg got DQ'd at the end there that we should probably mention because we mentioned it for everybody else.
Yes.
Skid plate was too thin. That's
Hmm.
becoming a problem, and it's no coincidence that um, it's all cars that are trying to um, get more downforce, right? So they're lowering their
Hmm.
car, thus scraping the skid plate, making the car
Yeah.
sit lower. So I think that it's if we see it a couple more times, it is a clear example of these cars are at the end of their cycle, so to speak, and so now everybody's
Mm,
trying to extract the maximum performance out of it.
right. And we don't have it in the notes, but we need to talk about Carlos. I
Yeah,
think we have to.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
that was I think he was in sixth, and then he DNF'd, and that was like I was watching at Lions Fountain, and I almost started crying like out in front of everybody. Like I was tearing up. It was so heartbreaking because he has been, I mean, he's been somewhat struggling through so far in the season, and he was doing amazing this race, and then he just he had to retire the car, and that was really, really heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, okay. I don't necessarily disagree with you. At first, when him and Sonoda got into each other, I
Yeah.
was trying to look to assign blame to somebody because I was pissed
Yes.
off for Carlos, and it wasn't until
Right.
2 or 3 laps later that you saw his whole side pod. We saw debris, and I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And then they show the right side of that side pod, and I was like, man, well, that's why he's slowed down.
Yeah.
And then I watched the replay and I watched the replay and then I went back and I thought about it and then I watched the replay like the next day, still looking to like, should I blame Yuki? Should I blame
Yeah.
Carlos? Um, in reality, they call it a racing incident, and I agree that's what it was. They both kind of slid into each other,
Yeah.
but then and then he got the penalty. So I think he got a penalty for
They've removed
screwing.
it since then, though.
I understand, but I think that's why
Okay.
they made the decision to retire the car because if he was going to have to
Yeah.
serve the penalty, he wasn't going to be because it was a 10-second penalty, and
Right.
normally they come in to serve that or they like, add it on at the end of the time, and it was like he was already
Right.
going to finish at the end of the field. Why tax the car? So
Right.
I don't I understand why they retired him. It's just unfortunate that they had to make that decision.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
Albon didn't do great either. Albon got what? He got 12th. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm I'm sad for Williams because I thought they were going to kind of be best for the rest of this year, especially since
Hmm.
they signed Carlos Sainz. And
Yeah.
where are they at? I think they're in sixth, and
Yeah.
it's not because they're doing so well that they're in sixth. It's the other teams are doing so poorly. I think so.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the in the on the broadcast, and they get a bonus if they're if drivers are announced as driver of the day, and it's the fans that watch that vote, and uh, the telecast called Lewis Hamilton the driver of the day, which I think was ridiculous. To me, that was a popularity vote. Um,
Hmm.
but who is your? We're gonna do a segment where we have the goat of the day, like a la the driver of the day, not necessarily the winner,
Yeah.
but who might have done the best given all of the factors you mentioned about. And then we're also going to talk about the donkey of the day. So Nat, who is your goat of the day?
My goat of the day. I put down Pierre. He just really a stellar performance. I know that Ocon was up there in his midfield car as well, but like we said, he might have benefited from the quali situation. And I think Pierre did a really amazing job. But then, like you mentioned, Ollie Bierman, I think I'm going to say I can't decide between Pierre and Ollie. Ollie did an incredible job from 20th to 10th, and Pierre just really stuck it out through that whole race. So those are my two.
Okay, well, if you're going to fence straddle, I'm going to just say Pierre. um,
Okay.
but I wrote down Pierre, and then I mean, it would be easy just to rubber stamp Oscar Piastri. He won by 15 seconds. Clearly, he had the best drive, but
Right.
he had the best
Of
car.
course.
So if you consider who had you could argue the worst car because Alpine was the only team that didn't have points prior to this week.
Yeah.
And then Pierre goes off and rattles off a sixth, seventh.
Fifth. Oh, seventh.
No, seventh because
Okay.
Verstappen got him on the last lap.
Got it. Okay.
But I mean, so they went from having 0 points to whatever that is, 8 points or something. I can tell you right now, 10, 7. I don't know. Um, and it's GOAT. So to me, it's individual because if you're gonna name Oliver Behrman, you also have to name Esteban Ocon. The fact that they both um, scored points. Haas is fifth in the championship. Who had that on their bingo card? But to me, GOAT is singular, not for a team. It's for a driver. So, donkey of the day. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, you don't have yours written down, so I'm kind of scared of what that is. I put down Max. He did get six, of course, but for Max, that's like really bad. And he was just having trouble with his pit stops, and that's not entirely his fault, but I just love it. I just would love to give it to Max, because sixth place isn't good for him. Um, and I don't know if you want to get into this about his performance clause in his Red Bull contract. So
Oh,
there's a little
we're gonna
drama
we're gonna get
surrounding
into
that.
it.
We're gonna get
Yeah.
into it. Okay,
Yes,
so
I've
I'm
got
putting
that.
down Max, and we can talk about his performance clause once you go.
Okay, my donkey of the day. So it's also like I said, that's easy to like rubber stamp Oscar. To me, it'd always be easy to rubber stamp Lance Stroll, but I am going to I am going
No,
to
I'm
give it to
scared.
Fred Vasseur.
What?
Yeah, if they don't fix their pit strategy now, if I was being serious, I would give it to Hulkenberg.
Okay.
Um, but because if I give it to Fred Vasseur, which is it's because their pit strategy, but Ferrari finished about where we thought they were going to, so it's not
Yeah.
really fair. So my donkey of the day officially will be Hulkenberg. You got disqualified.
Okay.
You're in a bad car. You had the benefit of um, of being squared away for the oh no his laptop did get deleted, so he moved to the back of the grid, but
Yeah,
but that's so he was out qualified by his own teammate who's a rookie who hasn't done well. I think it's going to be Hulkenberg.
that's reasonable.
All right, prediction review. Because of the week prior, what was that in Japan, Max winning, we both kind of were like, oh well, until McLaren and the papaya can figure out their lives, we're just gonna. I think we both picked Max.
Yep,
Oh yeah, yep.
we did.
And of course Oscar. Podium, I had Max, Oscar, George. That got me nothing.
You got the Oscar and George up there.
True, but the one I and I'll cover this in just a second. But you had Lando, Max, Charles, which that was.
Yeah.
Um, I have been when I've been keeping score. You've got to get the exact score correct.
Okay.
And then our bold
Doesn't
prediction,
matter.
yep, I had Yuki scoring. He got ninth place for 2 points, which is great. And
Very
that's
nice.
something to be said about Red Bull is they've Max finishing sixth and
Mm-hmm.
and then Yuki finishing ninth. You're like, wow, they
Yeah,
finished close to each other. And I thought,
they
and of
did.
course, Christian Horner, who's incapable of saying anything nice about Yuki Tsunoda, was like, oh yeah, he had a decent drive. I'm like, douche.
Yeah.
Yuki was 3 points off or 3 places off Max. So
Yeah, that's pretty
um,
impressive.
yeah,
Um, my bold prediction, Carlos gets seventh or higher. I've decided to stop using that as my bold prediction. I'm starting to feel like it's a little bit of bad luck. He did hold six at some point, and then he had to lose it when he retired the car. So I'm done with that bold prediction for now. I'm just gonna let him be, and maybe that's for the best.
okay. I I would appreciate that. So you stop jinxing my Williams guys.
Yeah, me too.
So as we close out of Bahrain and move into the race week that is Jeddah and Saudi Arabia, there's a couple pieces of news, and you had already touched on it with Max's performance clause. You
Yes.
want to unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. I believe it's third place, but I believe in his contract it says that if he drops below third in the championship, he's able to be released from Red Bull if he chooses to. And at this point, he's I don't know the exact standings. I know before Bahrain, he was only like 1 point, like near Lando. So I don't know the exact points, but he's very close to dropping out of third.
Yeah, I got it right here. So he is in third place. He's 6 points ahead of George Russell, and he's only 5 points out of second. So, I mean, he has a performance clause, and I have lots of things I would like to say about this, and I know we're kind of limited on time. The first thing is how did we hear about this? That loudmouth, chauvinistic helmet Marco, right? He's the guy
Oh,
that said it.
Marco.
He can't stop running his mouth.
Yeah.
And it's he did it last year with Max Verstappen in the scandal with Christian Horner and about how Jos Verstappen, Max's dad, wanted him off the team,
Hmm.
and then he was a kind of a jerk to Liam Lawson, and it's like, man,
Right.
shut up, go walk down the stairs, or jump off a building or something. Um, so there's that, and I wish he would just kind of shut up, especially when it'd be one thing if it was the silly season, the summer season, and we would be
Yeah.
loving for things to talk about. But
Right.
um, the other thing is, if it's true, everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Max. It was all because basically of the first couple seasons of Drive to Survive. I thought he was pompous and cocky and a jerk. Um, I, I still don't like him. But I'm aware that he is the period best period driver on the
Yeah.
grid.
Right.
And it's not up for debate currently. I mean, you could argue that Lewis is a better driver or Fernando, but currently Max is the best driver. There's nobody that can argue that.
Yeah.
He's won 4 championships in a row,
Hmm.
three and a half if you count this the drama, with Lewis Hamilton when Lewis should have won his eighth. Um, and why would he leave so like you do you expect to win five, six, seven in a row because it's never been done? Like so, I don't know why he would leave after 1 year that he didn't finish out of first, second, or third.
Yeah. And
Um,
I don't know where he would go at this point.
that's my
Not
next.
Mercedes. I don't think Mercedes.
Well,
I
okay.
doubt Aston Martin.
So
You what? Do you
those are
think
the two
Mercedes?
teams. Those are the two teams that he's been rumored to. Adrian Newey,
Yes.
the designer who's largely considered the best designer of all time, left Red Bull last year, did his gardening year off. Gardening is an official term, right? Or seasoning or something like that. But and then is now with Aston Martin. I mean,
Yeah.
they backed the brink, struck up, and paid him, and said, "Come fix Aston Martin." So
Hmm.
Aston Martin, I have no doubt, will be better next year.
Yeah.
Um, and with there being a regulation change, it wasn't worth spending a crap ton of money to make Martin marginally better this year, only when the
Hmm.
cars are going to be so different next year.
Right.
Um, so to say he's going to go to Aston Martin, I could buy. Who does he replace? Are they
I
gonna
don't know.
fire
Maybe
Fernando Alonso?
Alonso's ready to retire.
But
But
Alonso
I know
and
that. Go ahead.
Adrian Newey is quoted as saying that the two drivers he wanted to work with most in his whole career was Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. That's why when he
Right.
left Red Bull, everyone thought he's going to Ferrari or Aston Martin because
Hmm.
those are the drivers he wanted to work with. So if they fire Fernando Alonso, what does Adrian Newey do?
Right.
Are they going to fire Lance Stroll? Probably not, since the owner is his
Probably
dad.
not. Yeah.
So, and now Mercedes. Would he go to Mercedes? Who would they replace?
I don't think. I don't think that Mercedes would do that.
I I tend to agree with you, but Lewis and Max are kind of similar. If Lewis knocks on your door, you answer. And
Yeah.
Mercedes or Ferrari did it last year. They had
Yeah.
two great drivers, and Lewis knocked on the door. Lewis, you could
True.
argue, is better. He's definitely better marketing than Max
Hmm.
Verstappen. He's great on
Yeah.
television. I mean, he's classy. People love him. Um,
Right.
no one likes Max Verstappen. He's
Right.
even in a Heineken commercial where he doesn't speak. I mean,
Yeah.
because no one wants him to open his mouth. So I don't know. Then the other, so if you have any more to say about that, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I hope he doesn't leave. In short, but we'll see.
Yeah. Agreed.
The other big rumor, I don't know if you've seen this, is
Hmm.
Checo is
I
finalizing
yes.
with Cadillac.
You know,
So
I hope this rumor is true. I've only seen it on different various Instagrams and articles online, but th there's also rumors that Daniel Ricciardo is too, and Daniel Ricciardo has said, "Oh, I'm done." So I don't know, but I hope the Checo rumor is true. That'd be great. I'd love to see him back.
yeah, Cadillac has said that they would like to have one experienced good driver on the
Hmm.
grid and one American driver. So Checo
Yeah.
had Matt, and the reason Red Bull kept him for so long is because Checo, Carlos Sainz, sorry, what is his name? Sergio Perez brought so much sponsorship money. He's the
Yeah.
only Mexican driver on the grid, so all of the Mexican money that is earmarked for Formula One goes to whatever team Carlos Sergio Perez is on. Um, and evidently it's a huge sum of money. So any team would kind of want to have him because of that money.
Right. Absolutely.
So, all right, well let's move on to Jeddah.
Okay.
Jeddah is a hybrid street circuit and part street circuit, part track. It's only been around for a few years. I think this is the fourth or fifth year
Okay.
of it being a race. I'm excited because it's the third race of a back to back to back. So um, I'm probably talking, and you might want to talk, but the one of the things that I had noted here is I'm I'm not going to make this my bold prediction. I'm just making it a I wonder prediction because with next year being a new regulation change,
Hmm.
um, I think this is around the time of year where teams are if they're underperforming, they're just gonna they you might start to see them mail it in and start working on their cars for next year.
Yeah.
And I'm worried for that for Ferrari and Aston Martin
Yeah.
because we had thought before the season Ferrari and McLaren were going to be kind of fighting out for
Hmm.
constructors,
Yeah.
and if they don't start to see improvement, when are they going to say we're going to stop spending money on this
Right.
year and put it all in R&D for next year?
Hmm.
Same thing with Aston Martin. They've been the fourth or fifth best car on the grid for the last 2 or 3 years, and now they're the seventh or eighth best car on the grid.
Hmm.
And then we're going to see teams like Sauber, who's made. I mean, Kick Sauber has already said like we are waiting to become Audi, and so
Yeah.
they're gonna be even worse, I think. And if we don't see improvement or glimmers of hope from some of these teams, I think that
Hmm.
we might start to see huge gaps between first through 10th.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I think I'm most worried for Ferrari. They just have been underperforming and
yeah,
I feel like it hasn't gotten any better. I mean, Charles got that podium, or he didn't get the podium. I think he got fourth,
yeah, fourth, yeah.
and that's, we expect more from them normally.
I agree. I actually think so. They ran two sets of upgrades, and one, in practice, one they weren't really happy with. But then I mean, I think Ferrari's done really well at Jeddah in only the 4 years,
Hmm.
and Lewis Hamilton is also a former winner in only 4 years. So I like that. Jeddah is the second fastest track. It's called the Arabian Temple of Speed or something like that. So they
Hmm.
they nicknamed it that because it's second fastest only to Monza.
Yeah.
Um, and Ferrari has fast cars. They maybe not McLaren, but it's been their handling
Hmm.
that has kind of screwed them, not their speed. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I'm also excited because it's been an inconvenient time for the last couple races for us to watch. Well, the one
Hmm.
in Italy was really early. I didn't get to watch
Yeah.
qualifying or practice.
Hmm.
This one is, since it's a night race in Saudi Arabia, it comes on at like 10 in the morning for me. I get to see all the practices and all the qualifying and
Hmm.
nerd out the way I like to nerd out. So I'm happy about that.
For me, it's going to be at 7, I believe. So should be a
Seven at
good
night. Yeah,
weekend. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So it'll be seven at night on Saturday then. Yeah.
Whatever the
Oh,
20th is. No, Sunday.
oh yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, Want to go into some predictions?
Yes. I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right.
I was surprised by yours.
Yeah. Only because of the four races that have ever been done at Jeddah, Red Bull is one, two of them. So
Okay.
I am going with Max
All
to
right.
qualify first.
Okay. And I went with Lando. I almost went with Oscar, but I feel like they're sort of having this back and forth thing. Oscar's won two, Lando's won one. So theoretically, it's Lando's week. So I
I
just put down
Yeah,
Lando for quali.
if you notice on my podium, that's the reason I did this. I did the exact same thing that,
Hmm.
that you did. So from a podium, I have Max, Lando, Charles for second, third.
Okay. I have Lando, Charles, and Oscar.
Okay. So
Yeah. Again, I almost put Oscar as winning, but I
mm,
thought no, I'll give him a week break.
yeah.
Maybe it's Lando's turn. So
The funny thing is that if Max does even as remotely well as I have predicted, then we won't hear a peep about him leaving the team. That's
yeah,
like, we
absolutely.
won't hear a peep out of Helmut Marko, Old Man River there. Um, bold prediction.
Yeah.
Because we just spent a whole little conversation talking about how Williams kind of botched it. I am going to say that Williams, who is currently in sixth, I believe, I am calling them go to pass Haas, who is in fifth. Um,
I hope that's true. I hope you're not giving them bad luck with that.
I know. Well, so
Hope
you've
you're
been
not
jinxing us,
jinxing
so
it.
well, it's my
We'll
turn to
see.
jinx them. Exactly.
Maybe you'll give them good luck. I hope. My bold prediction, I said that I'm counting my second place for Charles as bold. I mean, Ferrari hasn't performed well enough to even show that there's a possibility of that, but I hope it happens. And like I said before, I'm officially declaring no more. I'm not doing any more Carlos predictions until he starts improving this season.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. We had a comment from somebody in our YouTube comments, and they wanted to know the prediction score sheet or the prediction scores. So I
Oh,
went ahead and tallied them all,
oh, you
and
did? Oh
yeah,
gosh.
and I'm pretty happy with the result, and so I don't feel like it needs to be double checked at all. I have it.
Okay.
I have me with six and you with one.
No way you have six. I don't believe that.
Fair. That's fair. I invite you to go ahead and double check
I'm
for
gonna
me.
fact check it and then next week I'll let the people know.
Yeah, that's good. Of note, though,
I believe I only have one. I think that's probably fully true. I don't believe you have six.
yeah. So I think it was week two that I got two out of three in the picks, and I've gotten a bold prediction
Hmm.
a couple times. So, um, of note is we didn't do a qualification prediction in the first couple. So I was
Hmm.
only counting the ones that I've only been counting first, second, third, who
Okay.
qualifies first, and then the sprint winner but nobody got that right anyway. So,
Right.
and then our bold prediction. Now, so with that said, it's 6-1. If you leave Charles as second place for Charles,
Hmm.
that's great, but you're losing out on an opportunity to gain some points. So I'm giving you a chance to change your bold prediction if you'd like. Or you would
Okay.
technically, if Charles got second,
Then I get two
then
points.
I would give you 2 points.
I don't know if I have that much faith in him though. Um, okay. My bold prediction is Yuki is gonna finish eight or higher.
Okay, I'll type that in right now so we can
Okay.
immortalize it. Yuki will finish.
I also don't think I believe that, but it's fine. We'll go with that.
So I don't think that's a terrible pick because Red Bull Checo is one here.
Okay.
So
And he's
um
driving Checo's car, really, so
yeah,
great.
yeah. All right. Do you have any final thoughts?
Um, my final thoughts are now I feel a lot more pressure to put in the work with these bold predictions. Now that I
Hmm.
know they're being tallied, I think we need to come up with a a bet for whoever wins by the end of the season. I think we need to put some stakes on that now. So we'll think
I
on
thought
that
we
and come
did.
back with something next
Uh,
week.
Okay,
I didn't
I
know we
thought,
came up with
or was
points
that
for that.
that was for the season long predictions, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I really hope Williams does good. Really hope they do. I hope they pull through. Do you have any more final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are I already kind of mentioned it. I love the times for all the events. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to we're having really good weather in the Pacific Northwest, but that's supposed to end by the weekend, so I'm getting all my yard work and stuff done so that I can kind of veg out and nerd out to all
Mm-hmm.
the different I got a subscription to the F1 channel, so I'm excited
Oh,
to see all the
great.
different
Yeah, I love it.
extra stuff footage that they have that I have not
Mm-hmm.
been seeing before. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and we got I think 2 weeks off between now and Miami, so I'm excited to digest. We'll do a proper race recap and then have
Yes.
some time off to get our thoughts right for Miami as we go to
Mm-hmm.
the West Coast, and it'll be crazy. What are your final
Yep.
thoughts? Oh, you already said that. So Oh, I think that'll do it for
Great.
me.
Perfect. Guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those good things. And we will see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao. Oh, how do I stop it? I'm stopping it.